Hey, Jack McNamara here.
And this is Ash Samuel Hart.
And we are here at the Jack Ash podcast.
Can't believe it's finally happening.
So, anyway, the two of us are full-time professional numismatists. We're here talking about coins, among many other things, but we decided to do a podcast because we eat lunch with a group of guys every day, and apparently the two of us fight like an old married couple.
Correct.
And we thought it might be fun to share a little bit with you guys. So what do we start? We're starting with some current events topics?
Let's jump straight into current events because obviously this year and next year, they're going to be insane years for modern numismatics.
Oh, because of the semi-quincentennial? Almost? Semi-quincentennial.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. So
semi-quincentennial.
I think it's quincentennial.
Yeah.
Whatever. So for that reason, I mean, they started with the flowing hair. I think the U.S. Mint even announced that the 2024 flowing hair was like the beginning of the launch of all of these brand new products. Mm-hmm. They've kind of teased out what's going to happen next year, but even this year, we got some insane stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about this one, but in July, the U.S. Mint is releasing a half-ounce gold Sacagawea dollar.
Really?
Correct. To commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Sacagawea dollar.
Sacagawea's been on 25 years?
That's what I was thinking. Since 2000, apparently, right?
Sounds right.
Yeah,
because they did that in 1999, Susan B. Anthony.
Correct.
As like a holdover, sort of like in 1921 Morgan. Like they needed some coins for vending, so they did the last year the Susan B. Anthony.
I'm just thinking that, after all these years of people trying to pass Sacagawea dollars as actual gold coins, we're finally getting a gold one, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. There is a gold one.
An actual gold one? Before this one was released? Mm-hmm. When was it made? Is it like a error coin or?
I think I have to double check this, fact check. I'm pretty sure they made like one and took it in the space shuttle or something, and I think it's in the Smithsonian.
Oh,
I have to double check that.
So, but that's the only one.
That's the only one. So there's none in the public.
There's
never been one that could be owned.
That's cool.
So
I don't think there are mintage figures yet. Meaning the mint hasn't announced how many they're going to be producing of the half-ounce gold version that's coming out in July, but it's going to be pretty cool.
Do you know if they're doing the reverse from the original Sacagawea, or are they doing one of the Native American, like a new design?
They don't have the official pictures on the Mint's website yet, so we have no idea. There isn't even a description. We just know that it's coming, I think, towards the end of July, so there's a description, like a title, but there's no description at the bottom of the page that talks about the design or anything like that yet.
That's cool. Half ounce is the right size, though, because
it's about the size of like a modern.
Well, I'm thinking about the first
piece.
fast planchets. They're about the same size as the Sacagawea.
Correct.
So it should look right.
I wonder if they're going to put a lettered edge on it.
That would
cool
make
too.
sense.
Right?
That'd be cool. Huh. So that's July?
That's July. And then we also have the Superman coins coming out next month as well.
That's pretty cool. I know you're more up on current pop culture and superhero movies and
I
stuff than I am.
And if you guys are now watching the new Superman movie, I'm super stoked about it, and I advise everyone to watch it because it's apparently going to be great. And I'm very excited. But the movie itself is coming out July 11th. The coins are coming out July 24th. I think they pushed it forward a little bit because they were
supposed to be kind of together.
They were supposed to be together. I don't know what happened, but I'm guessing the Mint's release schedule is a little crowded in the month of July because we also have the Morgan and Peace dollar coming out. I think that's on July 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a lot of stuff all at once.
A lot of stuff all at once.
And you said the Sacagawea is July too, right?
End of July. Correct.
Wow, that is a lot. So in the Superman one, I know I've been kind of watching it a little bit. But what is there, a half, $1, and then a gold 5? Is that
Correct.
what it is? So like a normal commem type of
basically,
release.
But I think the silver ones are metals. I don't think they're actual coins. I know the gold one is a $5 gold piece. Yeah. I know that.
Yeah.
But it's a half ounce, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, it's super cool. Apart from the fact that Superman
and
has...
are they all colorized, or is there colorized and a non-colorized
None of them are
version?
colorized.
None of them are
colorized.
Okay, that's cool.
Apart from the fact that Superman has a belly button, coins.
Oh yeah, I heard people complaining about that.
I mean,
is it that obvious that it's like such a thing to talk about, or is it?
Can we put up a picture right here somewhere of what the coin's gonna look like? Yes, it's pretty obvious. It's like in your face, front and center.
So is it because he was born on Jor-El? He's not supposed to have a belly button or something?
I don't know. He's an alien, man. Like I never read the comics.
Let's not talk about aliens here. This is not a political show.
But someone that's read the comics could tell me if he has a belly button from his home planet or not. Right. But I think aliens, like, they're too cool for umbilical cords. Like, why would they need, like, a belly button, you know?
I mean, he's still a mammal, right? He's a Superman. He's not like a super...
Yeah, but then, like, if you think about it, he has a suit over his body. Like, how tight does a suit have to be on the coin for his belly button to be like this huge hole like in the middle right there? So
They should maybe do like a Type 2 like they did with Standing Quarter and do like a non-belly button
that would be
armor,
funny.
Superman armor.
we need public outcry first, and then the Mint will do something about it.
It does sound like something worthy of public outcry. All this stuff going on in the world right now, and the public outcry is going to be over Superman's belly button.
Well, I mean, in the coin world, I mean, purists will always, want to make sure that the best coins are getting struck. We totally, by the way, glanced over the Morgan and Peace for this year, the 2025. The Mint State coins are coming out July 18th from the U.S. Mint, and I don't know if you heard this, but we still don't know how many of the proofs or the reverse proofs will be getting made, but the Mint State ones each have a mintage limit of 150,000 coins, which now makes them the rarest modern Morgan and Peace dollars ever made. Because the 2021s each had a mintage of 175,000 coins. And
So was 175 the lowest for any, like the proof, the reverse proof?
Yes,
before?
any, yeah.
So 175 is the lowest. So this is going to be the lowest, and 150.
Correct.
That's pretty cool.
We don't know if they're going to match the mintage for the proof or the reverse proof, but even if
usually don't they do a little more for the proofs and the reverse proofs usually?
the reverse proofs are usually the lowest historically from the three different finishes that are released by the U.S.
And also
Mint.
the highest demand. So it's
Yeah.
you got the most demand for the least coins.
Correct. Yeah. But it's
And then on top of it, they don't grade as well because the high points are
very mirrored.
Right, are mirrored. So
yeah. It's gonna be cool though.
interesting. That would be cool.
Every single year, whenever the U.S. Mint continues a series, especially like the Morgan and Peace Dollar series, I ask myself what they can do to keep the excitement going.
Right.
And sometimes it feels like, and I think you'll agree with me, sometimes it feels like the excitement, there's a chance for it to start dropping because they're just being boring with the releases. Then they come out with something cool like this where it's going to be the lowest minted one in modern history, which is pretty cool.
I feel like in the last decade or so, the mints really paid more attention. Like they've gotten a lot better at like making cool new releases, limiting the mintages, like doing things that you don't necessarily expect. Sometimes it's
flowing hair.
good. Sometimes, flowing hair is like the greatest thing
It's
they've
like
done
the greatest thing ever, like 100%.
since 1794.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there are a few other ones that are up there, but yeah.
But I feel like they're definitely doing more things than when I was a kid, 70s, 80s, 90s, it was they made coins for circulation and then they made a proof version and then they maybe make a commem.
Yeah.
Maybe like this when I in the 70s they didn't make any commems even.
So I wasn't alive in the 70s and 80s, for those of you who didn't know, but correct me if I'm wrong, like back then, were proof sets really even made for collectors? Because it seems to me like they were made to be given out as gifts because they're shiny and cool. Like, did people actually collect proof sets with the underlying theme being collecting?
I think a lot of people did. I think you're right. A lot of them were given as gifts, but I think it was mostly collectors, but kind of more casual collectors. Like that was what they collected. Like they might not be going after antique coins or vintage coins, and some people were, but I think it was like every year you bought a proof set. I mean, I feel like back then too, there was a lot more collectors who were kind of like completionists trying to fill holes in their collection. So if you had your penny album with every date, you might not be paying attention to proof versus mint state. That was a way to get all of the new coins for the next year for your collection. You know what I mean? To stay current on your coin collection. So I think most of it went to collectors, but you're right. It was a very affordable way to give, a birth year, a communion, a bar mitzvah. Like it's a way to remember that year. So it was like a good gift kind of a thing. But they made a lot of them. I don't think they give away that many gifts. That's why some of them are not that valuable today.
Like, that's fair. I always thought, I've worked with a lot of coins with you throughout history, but I've always felt like the Mint truly started paying more attention to the collecting community with their releases beginning in 2021. They were redesigning the Silver Eagle. We had the Morgan and Peace dollar sets get released. There were a bunch of different releases in the year 2021, like the Bronco. I feel like that was really the start of the U.S. Mint hitting their stride with their releases. And not just releasing coins that they themselves thought were cool, but actually listening to the public. And then that obviously crescendoed with the 2024 flowing hair as well, because, that's by far and away like one of the biggest releases ever.
I could see that. 2021, I could say maybe when it really hit its stride, but I'd probably put the kind of the planting of the seed and like the impetus of it, I'd probably go back to Moy, like 2009 Ultra High Relief, because then you have 2016 then with the gold Mercury dime and the Centennial coins, the Walker and the Standing Liberty. So I feel like it was starting, like the ball started rolling, but I'll agree with you on that. Like 2021 is when that snowball really got kind of critical mass and just started like where they were every year doing something you wouldn't expect or something, something really special. But like you're right, like the Bronco. What year was the Bronco? That's
2021.
That's 2021.
Yep.
I mean, that's a coin that's like so different. I mean, it's Liberty, but it's in a way that's never been done before. But it's so Americana with that Bronco. I mean, it's like you look at it and it's like American. Like you're not looking at that going like, oh, it's Russian, it's Chinese. It's like so American. And then just the symbolism, like bucking off the saddle, like going back to our foundation, like screw you, England, get the hell off my back.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool.
No, the Bronco, it already is down this path, but it will go down in history as one of the best modern coins ever made. Yeah. Just like you said, such a unique
Plus a
design.
low mintage. They kept the mintage low.
12.5, yeah, 12,500.
I mean, think about it. Like, what did they release that from the mint? Probably less than $4,000, $3,000 or something.
Back then, gold was probably at like 2,200. It was in the middle of COVID, so yeah, sounds about right. Probably like 2,900.
And now in 70, what are they like retail? Like 15 grand, 20 grand?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
less than 20, but
I've
15?
heard of some people actually selling, not just offering, but selling them for north of $20,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard of that. That seems a little egregious to me, but somewhere between the $14,000 to $18,000 range doesn't sound crazy for a coin like that, just sheerly based off of demand, though. I mean, the mintage itself is low, so the coin is scarce, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of coins that have similar mintages in U.S. history. This one differentiates itself because it not only has a unique design, it has a high relief finish, and it was struck during a time where a lot of people did not pay attention to it, and then all of a sudden the collecting public woke up and realized how rare high relief gold as a category is. And then they all just immediately went towards this one because of how different it was from the rest of the
Right, it just hit every mark.
Single checkbox was ticked off, correct.
And now, you'll know this better than me because you're kind of more in the trenches, but like, we sell every one we get. Like, what are we doing now a month? Like, we get like 3 a month, do we get even?
If we're lucky.
And they sell like...
There was a point where we could probably source like 5 to 7 if we tried hard enough, but like now... I think we're at a point where we can maybe sell 1 a month. Yeah, that might change. We might find like small pockets.
Right, somebody has a little collection. Like
exactly.
Mini
but
hoard.
It's usually like 1 a month, and the same is happening with the 2023, the bristlecone pine.
Yeah.
That it's following the same trajectory. Yeah. They're starting to disappear from the market. They're getting tougher to find. Same mintage, again, another unique design.
Right. It's a cool coin, but I like the bristlecone pine a lot, but it's not the bucking Bronco.
It's not the bucking Bronco.
All right, should we go to our topics?
Jack briefly mentioned it, that we kind of like to argue like a bitter old couple. we do have strong opinions. Neither of us are wrong. I will say that. Neither of us are wrong, but our opinions do kind of differ.
He's wrong.
Our opinions do differ a little bit when it comes to certain topics, and it's worth hashing it out, and you guys could obviously join in.
Hashing it out?
Yeah.
Ashing it out?
Hashing it out. That's the right way to say it, right?
It is right. I'm just busting your chops because your name's Ash. Sounds like hash.
It does sound like hash. You are correct. Anyway, Jack, why don't you start? You have a list of
So I have a stack of cards. We each came up with some topics, and then somebody made a pile of cards for us so that
our executive producer over there.
Yes. So I have prompts or questions that Ash wrote. He has ones that I wrote, and I don't know what I'm about to read.
No, you're going to ask me questions from your pile.
Oh, I have my own questions.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't even know what's going on here, but that's
you're gonna ask
the
me a question, and
I'm gonna ask you.
Okay.
So this is a question. Oh, here we go. Okay, this will be a fun one that we probably. Well, I'll tell you you're wrong. Anyway, if you had unlimited funds, what is the one coin you would buy?
If I had unlimited funds, what is the
like one? Money's no object. There's, you could get
it's only one coin. I mean, you know what's going through my mind, just like the few like insane rarities.
Yeah.
Probably the story that's the coolest for me.
I have a guess what I'm going to tell you after you say, but I have a guess what I think.
It's one of two coins, either the 1913 nickel or the 1804 dollar.
Oh, interesting. Those aren't the ones I thought you would say.
What were you gonna? What did you say?
I thought you were going to want that one that's potentially the first $1794 because I know how much you like $1794. I mean, I love $1794. It's up there.
It's a very, very.
That's
cool
going to be in
coin.
your top 5.
without questions in the top 5. But it's a very cool coin. The 1913 nickel probably edges out the $1804.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people will probably think I'm crazy for saying that, but the story behind the 1913 nickel is just absolutely insane. Only 5 were made. It's one of those coins I haven't even held in my hand before, and I've looked at quite a few different like insane rarities throughout my career, but that's one that's always kind of slipped away.
You know, it's funny. I am really surprised you said that, because I feel like those two coins, the 1913 nickel and the $1804, those are like classic, famous, like the most famous rarities. But I feel like when I was growing up and like earlier, like, you know, going back, I mean, 1804 has been the king of coins since the 1800s.
Yeah.
You know, 1913 probably since the 1930s or 40s has been like, you know, the big coin. I feel like I love that traditional stuff, and I feel like you're a little more, you know, you have a little more modern view of stuff. So I would feel like those might not be the coins
People
you
do
would pick.
say I'm a bit of an old soul, though. So.
Right, but that's why I also thought you would pick like 1794, because it's also the first year, so that's like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Whereas 1804 or 1913 nickel are more like you have to really be a kind of hardcore numismatist to like appreciate it a little more.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I almost think the 1913 nickel is even more recognizable than the 1794, the first one. Like if you put both of them in front of somebody, would someone recognize why this one's more important than the other one first? Like I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel like more people would recognize the 1913 nickel story.
I mean, it was on an episode in the 60s of Hawaii Five-0, the 1913 nickel. I mean, there's a lot of like lore with it. I mean, the whole story, I mean, they weren't supposed to be made. They were made at night by a guy who was working at the mint. The guy then, I mean, it's all kind of convoluted. No one knows 100%, but like basically the guy made 5 of them, put an ad in a newspaper like a year later, like, buying 1913 nickels, I'll pay you $10 if you find one. And I think the only reason he did that was so he wouldn't get caught.
Right?
Yeah, to cover his own tracks.
Bought them from himself.
Right. He basically made them and then was like, well, crap, how am I going to tell anyone how I got these? Oh, I know. I'll put a classified ad and say I bought them from some random schmo. Like, you know?
Do you remember when you were, you probably don't remember this, when you were busting my balls about that coin when I first started here?
No, what did I say?
So I started working at the call center. I worked Collectibles TV, and then I shortly...
Wait, let me go back for a second. You're talking about when you first started and you didn't even know people collected coins yet?
Yes.
You didn't know that was a thing?
I did not know coin collecting.
Just want to point that out to you, ladies and gentlemen.
But, I mean...
You've come a long way.
Come a long way.
Like other people we know who used to work fast food and now run businesses.
Yeah, that's right.
You have come a long way.
That's right. So I was working in the coin room shortly after starting the call center, and I remember... I forget if it was you or Rick, but one of you guys had a presentation for a roll of Liberty nickels.
Okay, no 1913s.
No 1913s, but do you remember that presentation?
Yeah.
Was it you or Jack or Rick?
I forget now. It may have been us together, but I know there's some better dates. There was like a 1912.
So we got a batch of Liberty nickels in, and Jack was having me hand count them because I was new to coins and he wanted me to understand how coins work. Anyway, so one of the questions I asked them, because it was a bag of very date Liberty nickels, like basically anything. I was like, are there any special dates I should look out for that if I find them, like it's one that I should like set to the side? And Jack was like, if you find any 1913 Liberty nickels, I will hand you $30,000 cash for each one that you find. And young 18, 19-year-old Ash was like...
Oh, you haven't found one yet, have you?
I have not found one yet, no. My hopes were, shortly after that, my hopes were crushed because someone that doesn't work here anymore, but my former manager was like, that coin is impossible to find and you should...
They're all accounted for, too. It's not even... Although, at that time, I think they were all accounted for. For a long time, the fifth one, the last one, was missing for like 40 years.
That's the one that was like in the car accident that like flew out of the car.
Yeah, there was a guy, Walton, I think, was the guy who was he was a dealer. And he died in a car wreck in like the 60s, and apparently his coins were all over the highway. Like it was a whole thing. But the story was that he had a replica that he would bring to coin shows so that he didn't have to travel with it, because obviously even back then it was probably 6 figures. It was a very expensive coin. So he had one apparently that was like a replica that he would bring. So apparently after he died, his family went to sell it, and they went to an auction house, and the auction house was like, we don't feel comfortable selling this, because they weren't sure it was authentic or not. Because also, I mean, think about it, like in the 60s, like you can't like go compare it to the other ones. There's no good photograph. I mean, now you could go and blow up a picture of the known ones that exist and compare it. So they didn't sell it, and the family put it back in like the closet for like 40 years, and then PCGS put out a bounty and said we'll pay like $1,000 for anybody who just shows this to us, and it came out, I don't know when it was, 10 or 20 years ago, and they actually were it was pretty cool, because when the family brought it out, and to authenticate it, they actually had all of the other 4 known ones together at the ANA on display at the convention. So they had all 4 there, and they compared it. And apparently one of the biggest ways they authenticate it was actually looking at the rims, because there were certain like lines and like on all of them that they could match up and say this is 100% absolutely authentic.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Which is pretty cool. So I saw all 5 together. It's cool. They had them all on display.
I haven't seen one yet, so you're making me jealous. I'm going to ask you a question.
All right, let's hear it.
This is a good one. It actually plays well into the question you asked me.
Uh-oh.
If you had $20,000 to spend on coins, what would you focus on? If that was your budget for whatever you were thinking of putting together.
What would I focus on? You know, that's such a good question, and I feel like you could ask me again in an hour, and I'd probably come up with a different answer.
Yeah, there are a lot of answers.
There's so many answers. You know, in the past, I'd probably say gold because it's so much in demand, something gold. But now, you're not getting that many coins. So it's,
yeah,
you know,
it's like maybe 4 coins.
You know,
yeah,
4 coins is pretty good though. I don't know.
I know what I would pick.
I'm trying to think. I'd probably make some kind of a typeset. I'd probably try and get like a cool, like a circulated, low grade but really really nice like chain cent, and then that's probably half the money right there at least. You know, I'd probably get I do like a lot of that early stuff. You know, I'd probably maybe like a nice like 1795 flowing hair dollar. Like again, circulate. Obviously, you're not getting a mid-state coin.
But that's only 1 coin. Like I'm saying, like imagine.
Well, that was 2 coins. That was a chain cent and a flowing hair dollar. Now we're done. That's my old
$75.
You get
even in like heavily strict condition. You're still going to pay like 10 grand, so you're only going to have like 2
we're
coins?
like there. Yeah, it would be 2 coins, maybe.
No. So I'm like a bit of a purist.
Let's hear, because you're going to probably change my mind, and then I'm going to go a different direction once I hear your answer.
I mean, mine is not vintage at all, actually.
Okay.
And this is maybe my younger soul creeping up a little bit here, but I would go after Silver Eagles proofs in proof 70. And the reason is, like, I'm a completionist. Like, if I start a collection, it'll bother me if I don't complete it. Yeah. And Silver Eagles are just so damn cool. And if you get just the standard issues, you could finish a set for well under 20K. It's just totally doable. That's what I would do.
That's a good, I mean, look.
I mean, there are a lot of, don't get me wrong, there are a crap ton of vintage coins that are worth only for under 20K, but like, if you're looking to put together a collection.
Yeah, proof set, you can probably do the whole thing at 20, right?
Probably under.
Yeah. Because you got key dates. I mean,
93 and 94 are the major key dates.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some other valuable ones, but you take those 2 out of the equation. You could do the whole entire set for about 20K or a little bit less.
As far as like the design, I mean, it's probably my favorite design. I mean, it's right up there with the St. Gaudens. I love the Walking Liberty half dollar. I always have, you know, that Wyman design. On a proof, obviously, it's 3 times bigger than a Walking Liberty half. With modern technology, the strikes are crazy. They're beautiful coins. It is the most popular coin in the world. I mean, it used to be like the Morgan, but we used to say like the most popular modern coin, but I would actually just say the most popular coin in the world now at this point. I mean, how many people collect Silver Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, and the proof ones are getting tougher to find is what I've noticed as well.
Yeah, because it's interesting too, because the proofs, obviously they take a lot of extra care to make them, but those ones that already were tough to get, if they're not already in holders, they're getting milk spots and they're not, you know.
Yeah,
they're hard to get in high grade. All right, here we go. Oh, here we go. This is very current events. What are your thoughts about President Trump discontinuing the 1 cent coin, the Lincoln cent?
For practical reasons, I love the idea. From a numismatic perspective, I hate the idea. I hope, just because it's getting discontinued, that doesn't mean that they'll stop proof penny production.
Yeah.
That would be cool if they could continue the 1 cent production and proof sets, proof onlys. I understand for circulation, I don't remember the last time I had a penny in my pocket. Honestly, I kind of try to get rid of them as quickly as they enter my pocket. So I understand why they did it. It's just, I mean, don't they spend like 2.7 cents per
it's
cent?
way more than they lose money on everyone they make.
It's not like a crazy amount of money per year. It's probably like 20 million bucks because they strike billions of coins, but it's still, I mean, there's no real use for cents. It should have been done like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny every time, because it's been coming up forever. This isn't like a new thing. They've been talking about it for a long time, and every time it comes up, it gets shut down. People are like, "Oh, it's rounding, and what are we gonna do about the pen?" I'm like, every time I go to like 7-Eleven, all the people who get pennies and change, like
they drop it in the
the ticket penny, or half of them are in the parking lot. Like people just drop, like people don't care.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's the point? We're making a coin that loses money to like not even be used. To me it's dumb. But again, as a coin geek, I'm like, oh crap, like I've been collecting pennies since I'm like probably like 4 years old. Like, I mean, it's kind of like bittersweet, but I agree that it makes sense. I think it's the right decision for the country, but I'm with you. I hope they make a proof only. Or the one thing, I think I told you this the other day, I saw there's a coin club in like the Midwest that was starting a petition, and this would be the coolest ever, that since they're discontinuing the penny, and it no longer is made for circulation, they're petitioning to make for collectors a proof large cent.
Yeah,
bring back the large cent.
That's cool.
I'm like, that would be cool. Especially now they're doing, the flowing hair, the Morgans,
That'd be very
these
cool.
Centennial. They're going back to some of these old designs. But it'd be interesting to go back to not just an old design, but like a completely. I mean, large cents are like almost size of $50. That'd be wild if they came back with a penny like that.
Yeah, for me, cents also, carry a special place in my heart. I mean, I didn't grow up collecting cents. I actually didn't grow up collecting coins at all. I found coin collecting later on in life. But you probably remember this. One of the first projects I had as an advisor was helping our client out in Florida with his Lincoln Cent collection.
Incredible Lincoln Cent. I mean, one of the
like
greatest
one of
Lincoln
the top
Cents
three.
ever.
Correct. He ended up building one of the top 3 Lincoln Cent collections, and I remember I had not worked with Lincoln Cents very much before then, only some of the more acquirable dates in the series, but his passion, rubbed off on me. And I mean, Lincoln Cents are incredibly cool. Like some of the earlier dates from 2009 to call it like 1928, right around there. Those are some of the most difficult Lincoln Cents to get in red condition, especially when you start talking about gems. They're ridiculously scarce, incredibly cool. It's sad to see the Lincoln Cent and the cent in general go away, but I understand for practical reasons why it needed to be done.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense too how rare those would be, because think about people collecting coins in 1909 people save coin. Anytime there's a new issue, people who aren't even collectors, who are kind of casual, will save the first new coin. But then like those other years, as first coin collectors in the 1920s were collecting colonial coins. Like they were just looking at this as new money. They weren't paying attention to the modern releases like we do today, and like trying to get the finest example. They just get spent. Yeah.
So my next question for you, a certain someone paraphrased. Okay. So I wouldn't ask it the same way I originally wanted to mention it. It's a lot more PG, so I'll just jump straight into it.
Uh-oh.
Are Roosevelt dimes exciting?
No.
I don't think in 10 years, I don't think I've ever sold someone a Roosevelt dime on purpose. It probably came in like a year set or a proof set.
Oops. On purpose.
No, I mean like it probably came in like a year set or a proof set or something. But I don't think I've ever sold a Roosevelt dime as a Roosevelt dime in my life.
The only one that was kind of cool was when they did that W mint mark one for that
March of Dimes?
The March of Dimes one. That was kind of cool because it's like a low
that
mint. It was the first W mint.
Wasn't that in the little booklet set? What was that called?
No, it wasn't in the Coin and Chronicle set. It came in like the proof set or the mint set, like it was a little extra like thing in this set. Like it was a weird kind of a thing.
Isn't there one Roosevelt dime? I forget if it's like struck on a different planche or what, but there's one Roosevelt dime where there's only one in existence or something, and it's worth like multi six figures. Do you know? Does that ring a bell?
So Roosevelt dime, it's unique. There's only one known, and it's worth $150 because nobody gives a crap. I think. No, I mean, I'm sure if there's something that rare, it would be easily six figures. Is it a?
It's like an overstrike or something.
I'm trying to think. What about? Isn't there like a no mint mark one, or is that only the quarters, like the proof sets?
It
where
might
they
be
don't have
something like
those?
that. It's a really cool one. That's all I remember.
What's the really? Yeah, isn't it the No S? Isn't it a 1970 No S Diamond? Isn't that the one that just sold? Isn't that
Yeah,
the one there's
that
only
is
like
the one
three
that just
known
sold.
or something?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
super
yeah,
rare.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that sold for six figure. It
Yeah.
sold for like what, 200 or 300 grand.
I'm not gonna lie, even that coin's a little boring, but
That's kind of cool. That actually.
if it was a Lincoln cent, it'd be worth a lot more.
Yeah, but that coin is cool. Yeah.
75 No S sold for 456,000.
That's the one, the 75.
the one.
So yeah, there's a few different No S dimes in different year proof sets. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And the 75 is the one. Sold for how much?
450.
Sold for $456,000. Just recently, it was like a month or 2 months ago.
2019.
Oh, there was one.
There's one that sold in
recently.
the last couple of years.
No, there's one that sold this year.
This year?
Yeah. Brought a lot
Anyway,
of money
enough
in.
about Roosevelt dimes.
Why, man? We just got going.
We just said they're boring.
So? All right. What else do you collect? Here's a question for you. I probably could have looked in the camera, made more. So, Ash, besides coins, what else do you collect?
Besides coins, okay. Besides coins, I am huge into Pokemon cards. I love Pokemon cards. I grew up with the Pokemon show and with the cards as well. I was born in the mid-90s, if you guys haven't guessed by now, and that's right around the time when Pokemon became a thing. Pokemon cards are awesome. And yeah, some of them go for a lot of money. Like, you'd be surprised. There are 7-figure Pokemon
I was going to
cards.
ask. I know there's 6 figures. There's 7 figure.
There are 7-figure Pokemon cards. The most valuable Pokemon card is called an Illustrator Pikachu, and there's only a single PSA 10. An influencer named Logan Paul, which many
Didn't he
people-
wear it into the ring, like around his neck?
I don't know if the one he wore was the Illustrator Pikachu or the Charizard that he had, but the Illustrator Pikachu, he paid basically a net $5 million. The guy that sold it wanted a PSA 9 plus $3 million cash, and I think he paid $1.9 million for the PSA 9 and added $3 million cash, and then yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
That's definitely a. I get it as a collector of just stuff, but that's definitely a younger generation than me. And most of our
Definitely.
coin collectors, it's funny, coin collectors were always older than me when I was growing up, and now we're seeing a lot of younger guys getting into it again. I feel like there was a period where people, like newer collectors, weren't really paying attention to coins, and now in the last like few years, I feel like there's a lot of young collectors again. Probably guys who started collecting state quarters when they were kids and stuff like that. But
I'm not gonna lie though, with like Pokemon cards, and I guess they would be called the Pokemon Company. They're kind of pissing me off recently. They're getting smart with their releases in that. So it's like baseball cards or football cards or whatever, where you have to like rip packs and like you might get a cool card, you might get nothing, like one of those deals. They're making the best cards that they know people are gonna chase the most difficult to find, and they're doing it on purpose. They're actually, it's called pull rates. They're making the pull rates a lot larger or smaller. Basically, you have to open up more packs to find that specific card or one of the 3 or 4 major cards in a set that are released.
right.
And it's turning the whole entire hobby into like this massive frenzy. I mean, there are scalpers everywhere in all sorts of different collectible industries, but with Pokemon cards specifically, they're first and foremost made for kids. People forget that.
Originally.
I mean, even now, like kids still love Pokemon cards. You know, it's something that I even give to my son sometimes to play with. He doesn't really like it, but he will maybe one day. We'll see. But you'll see guys literally take pallets of Pokemon cards from like Costco or whatever, and there are kids that just wanted to get one and they won't give them. Like it's turned into a horrible frenzy.
Right, because there's so much money to be made, and people are just like, they're taking the kind of joy out of it.
Correct.
It's funny because, Johnny, my son, as you know, is starting college this year. So we had to get him a laptop, and he brought it home, and there was like an issue with it. So my wife was calling Best Buy to return it. It was like Sunday night. You call Best Buy, which is a place that sells TVs and computers and stuff. Their message is like, if you're looking for the new Pokemon release, like the first thing on their outgoing message was like about the
my
Pokemon
God,
cards. I
that's
was
crazy.
like, holy cow, like this is like crazy.
Yeah. I remember during COVID, it was the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, and it was crazy. People were literally fighting each other at the stores, like grown men fighting each other at like Target, and like barrel rushing each other just to like get the newest set because they had a valuable card.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Anyway.
I thought coin guys were geeks, but
Yeah, Pokemon guys are even worse.
uh-oh.
All right.
Uh-oh, you're smirking.
This topic has been discussed so much between Jack and I. I will not stand for this. What is the king of Morgan dollar?
This is like probably the argument that caused us to
start this whole
even
entire
decide we're gonna do
podcast.
this.
Yeah.
So traditionally, it's always been the 95 proof, but I know your argument is a good. I'll give you that. There's
They
logic.
don't even know my argument.
I'm gonna tell them.
All right.
No, I won't. No,
Tell-
the 93S is a strong. You have a strong argument for it because it's the lowest mintage, 100,000 mint state coin.
Rarest.
Yeah, but the 95p, again, this is a coin that I put back with like the 1913 nickel and the 1804 dollar. Like for not at that level, but as far as forever, it's been considered the king.
But why?
Because collectors back in the day were trying to get all the different dates and mint marks, and they weren't going, "Ooh, this is a mint state release. This is a proof release." So they were trying to get every date and mint mark, and to get a 95p, there is no mint state issue, so you needed that coin. And as a proof coin, what's the mintage on it? 500 or something? 880.
Yeah.
880. So you got a tiny mint. I mean, look, the 93S, there's 100,000 made. There's 880 made.
Okay. So,
So-
I'm gonna explain.
Give
my
me
side
your
of this.
counterpoint. Which, like I said, there's logic to it, but dude, this is
Plenty of logic. In fact,
go back to
there's-
1895. This is the king.
Yeah, but if we go back to 1895, we'd be riding horses to work too. So that doesn't really mean that.
Sounds
it was,
fun.
You know what I mean. So
No, what do you mean?
it's a proof Morgan that
Yeah.
people used to plug into the holes of circulation Morgan dollar collections because there was no Philadelphia issue. Correct?
Correct.
That in of itself is not enough of a reason for it to be called the king of the Morgan dollar series. First of all, it's not a circulation strike, so it just gets disqualified right off the bat. Second of all, there are proof Morgans that are far rarer than even the 1895 proof.
Right, but there isn't the demand for them because it's a supply
I-
and demand issue. There's not
Supply-
the demand because people
you
could get a.
You are correct.
Yeah.
But how would you define the king of anything? Like the king of Morgan dollars or the king of St. Gaudens? How do you define what the king of a series is? If you had to give a concrete definition.
The king?
Yes.
Well, I'm trying to think because it's not always the rarest because it's again the supply and demand.
I would
It's
call it the most difficult one to obtain. That would be my definition.
Well, there you go. A proof 95 Morgan is way harder to obtain than a 93S Morgan.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No. Try getting a mint state 93.
Oh, I didn't say mint state.
Doesn't matter.
Just in any grade.
That does not matter.
Sure it
whatsoever.
does.
No.
You go on eBay now and buy like 40 93Ss.
Yeah, but they're all in like fine 12 condition.
They
Like-
exist.
Like there are, I think, 66 93S Morgan dollars in mint state condition
Okay.
across all grades.
Yeah.
For the 95 in like mint state or
It's because of proof, so most of them were maintained.
they're
and, yeah.
all in high grades. There's no spread between the prices because people just want to have a 95 proof.
It's true. A Circ is not much cheaper than like a proof 60.
If you want to define what the king of the Morgan dollar series is, and you were going after which one's the most difficult to acquire, there's only one answer. If you're including proofs, it's the 1921 Chapman. If you're not including proofs, it's the 93S Morgan dollars. The most
But also 1921, and not to crap on the Chapman, but 1921, anything Morgan gets a like crap reputation. Nobody looks at it because they made so many, especially in Philadelphia.
except for the Chapmans.
Right. But even a 1921p mint state in like 6.7 should be worth probably twice what it is because people just go, oh, 1921, it's common, who cares? But they come crappy.
Yeah.
So
I
that
can
makes
see
the
that.
Chapman worth less than it should be worth because the Chapman,
You know how many Chapmans were struck?
I don't know, but it's tiny. Is it
42.
100? 42?
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
That's really low.
It's crazy. Like if anything should be called.
How many
proof.
were the Zerbies? Do you know?
I feel like it's under 100, but I remember the exact.
But
number.
Zerby is definitely a production die that
It's
they
like
polished.
a specimen finish is what they
Basically,
call
they
it.
took a die that they had on hand, just polished it.
Correct.
Whereas the Chapman was
Chap-
actually made as a proof die.
I think so. I think they hired Chapman to come to the mint and create brand new proof dies, and then they struck some proof. coins,
No,
and
no,
that
no,
was
no,
it.
no. That can't be it. Chapman was a coin dealer. Chapman went to them and said, I need... Both Chapman and Zerby were coin dealers, so they went to the mint and said, I need proof coins for my clients. Chapman may have more been involved in the process, but he wouldn't have been the one, like, doing it. You know what I
But
mean?
wouldn't that be an act of Congress to create proof coins? Don't they need approval before they
I don't think so. I think just a new design or
do
issue
now,
they would.
don't they?
I don't think to make a proof version of an existing coin is different than making like a new issue.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if they wanted a different coin, I think you need Congress. But I think just to make a proof version of a coin, and especially back then, it was so loosey goosey. Like guys would go trade stuff. Like the mint director would say, oh, the National Numismatic Collection, the Smithsonian. A large percentage of those coins originated. It was the U.S. Mint collection that eventually got transferred into the. So if the U.S. Mint collection, if Chapman or somebody had some coin that they bought in a deal that the Mint didn't have, they just go up to the Mint and be like, "I'll trade you this if you make me a bunch of proof coins." Like, okay, like it was a little loosey goosey back then.
Anyway, so to summarize, 1895 proof Morgan is not the king of Morgans. It's not the rarest Morgan silver
So what is
dollar.
it, Chapman?
If we're counting proofs on mint states together, Chapman. If you're talking about just circulation strikes, then the 93S.
If you're talking about just 90, it's circulation strikes, of course it's a 93S. What would you argue with?
What I'm trying to say is there's no...
Nobody ever called the
definition.
1895 proof the king of circulation strike Morgan dollars. It's the king of Morgan dollars.
It is not the king of Morgan dollars. It is literally, it does not fit into any definition of being called the king of Morgan dollars unless you get super specific and like hyper nuanced about what you're talking about.
I think it's obviously. I think it's hyper specific and
it's
nuanced.
very specific.
It's if you're just collecting one of every date in Morgan
that fits into the Mint State Morgan dollar series because they didn't make a Philadelphia issue in the year 1895, so collectors were looking for this one, and that's the reason why it's the king of Morgan dollars. It does not fit under any other definition of the king of any specific series. What's the king of St. Gaudens Double Eagles?
1933.
Exactly. Why?
Or would you say 27D?
33.
No, but 33s weren't officially released, so it doesn't count.
That would be your argument. That would be your argument.
No, that's what you're saying.
No,
the 95 isn't a normal issue, so it can't count.
I didn't say it's not a normal issue. I said it's not a circulation strike. It doesn't even belong in the
technically,
series.
a 1933 Saint isn't a circulation strike because then none of them were supposed to ever get released.
It is a circulation strike. Just because it didn't go into circulation doesn't mean it wasn't a circulation strike.
But it wasn't ever released.
That was a
so it's
rookie
not a
answer,
regular
Jack.
release.
Huh?
What? Is it what?
That was a rookie answer. Just saying.
Rookie answer.
Yeah.
Dude, I was collecting coins before you were born. Rookie answer. Smack you.
All right, you got
That's my turn?
Yeah. It's
All right, let's see what we got. Are you an ass? I mean, yeah. sorry.
Depends on who you ask.
Oh, here we go. This is the question number 2, right after that one, that caused us to have this show. You know what it's going to be.
I don't.
How do you feel about circulated or impaired proof coins?
I think anyone that calls a circulated proof coin an impaired proof coin is doing a disservice to the U.S. Mint employees that worked so hard to make these pieces of art. Just because it's
Pieces of what?
art.
Oh.
Why would you call them impaired? It's like the worst term you could use to call a proof coin that's been through circulation. Especially using your logic, that's back then people didn't care about proof or circulation coins. People spent some proof coins. That doesn't mean they're not proof anymore. Impaired proof doesn't mean anything to me. It's like a word that doesn't exist.
It's a proof coin that circulated.
So why is it called impaired?
Because a proof coin were made for collectors. So they're made in a special way and they're generally maintained in that way. And if it goes in circulation, it's really no longer a proof coin. It was made as a proof coin, but it's not proof anymore, really.
Yeah, it is. Are you kidding? What do you mean? It's absolutely a proof
Where's
coin
the
still.
mirrored surfaces? Where's the crisp strike? You can't even see it if it's all worn out.
I can't get into specifics, but a good friend of both of ours, who helped build one of the finest collections in the world,
Okay.
told me that his client started collecting coins, built this multi-9-figure collection because he bought like a $10 gold piece from an auction in fine condition, and our friend was able to identify it as a proof coin, even though it was in a fine 12.
Even though it was impaired.
Yeah, even though it was impaired. And that small little story right there
Got him fired up.
Because
he realized you could find varieties.
Exactly, and super cool stuff,
Right,
like
right.
in like without even really trying, not really, accidentally is what I meant to say.
Right.
And yeah, you could call it impaired proof. I just call it circulated proof. It's
Well, as you know, you've kind of cracked me on this a little. I've started coming around. I used to think circulated proof coins. Why the hell would you buy a circulated proof coin? Because for the rarity, you could get one that's a 60, a proof. I don't want to say mint state. They're not mint state, but you know what I mean. An uncirculated proof coin, and usually it's not that much more money because the impaired proofs or circulated proofs are still a lot of money because the mintages are so low.
Exactly.
But if you want a coin that's made to be the coiner's caviar, like the most perfect example, don't you want one that looks good and isn't all like worn out? I mean, that's what makes them special is that they're made to look special.
Most
like, is it that special?
1895 P Morgans are circulated.
Yeah, but I'd rather have one that's. I wouldn't buy that.
I'm just saying they are. Most of them are.
Go for the higher grade one.
I 100% agree with you. But for something that has a mintage of 12 coins, just because one example does exist in like AU condition, you can still tell it's a proof coin.
Yeah, I think the difference though is if it's a proof only issue versus a issue that's not proof only though.
No,
I mean, there's a lot more demand
matters.
for any issue that's a proof only than just a proof that there's also a mint state coin.
You know where I'll
For
consider
any
some middle
issue.
ground? If the coin is circulated so heavily to the point where
You can't tell it's a proof anymore.
you can't tell it's a proof anymore, then at that point you are correct. I do agree with
But
you.
again, a little bit.
That I would call impaired proof, but there are a lot of like AU proof coins that still look proof.
But the other thing, and you know this from even proof-like coins, when you have those mirrored surfaces, they show everything.
Yeah.
Like even an AU58 that's a proof, it's going to look chattery. Like
is.
even the amount of marks that you'd have on a AU58, a normal coin, looks so much worse on a,
Correct.
or so much more prevalent, noticeable on a coin with shiny mirrored surfaces. Everything shows.
Wouldn't you agree, even if it's a coin that circulated a little bit and was like a proof 58, that you could still tell that it's a proof coin?
Yeah, because you're going to still see the real squared off rims. You're going to see the strike still.
I haven't seen any proof coins like in like really low grades, but if I had to guess, like around the XF ranges where it starts losing all the mirrored
When you get to that
surfaces.
grade, I would bet like 95% of the time, again, unless it's a proof only issue, you're not even going to know if it was a proof or not anymore.
Yeah.
Any characteristics
Yeah.
that you could tell it apart from a regular issue are going to be worn off the coin. You're not even know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All right.
I don't know what this question is, but we're about to find out.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, I love this question.
Oh, no.
No, it's a good one.
Okay.
It's a really cool story. Is the trade dollar the most unique silver dollar ever made?
Probably, because it's a whole different weight system. It's made to be used overseas in Asia. You know, I would say yes, only because I don't know what else would kind of qualify as unique, because anything else, even like flowing hair dollars, they made them for 2 years. It's not a different size or weight than like a draped bust, so I guess so. I've always wanted one with like chop mark, like crazy chop marks.
I know you told me that.
I always want
wouldn't want one with
I want a
chop marks.
high grade one with a ton of chop marks.
I know the chop marks almost add some legitimacy to the coin because it was actually used in circulation the way the trade dollar was intended to be used in circulation. But like, I mean, first of all, I think the trade dollar design is one of the most, if not the most unique silver dollar design ever put on the coin.
I mean, it's not that different from a seated dollar.
It's different enough. It's a very unique, very elegant coin design, and I'm honestly both shocked and kind of disappointed that it kind of gets overshadowed by the Morgan dollar that comes right after the trade dollars were struck, and the seated dollar that was before. Like it's almost like the forgotten silver dollar series that
it's
no
in
one.
between, yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Well, it's none of these other dollars can compete, or none of these series that are like from that era can compete. The Morgan is only because these were in Treasury Mint vaults. So
Yeah.
there's mint state coins that are available, and pretty much everyone can at least afford one, Whereas the trade dollars, they weren't saved in vaults. They all went overseas. They got melted because they were heavier than the other coins.
by like 0.3 grams. by
Yeah,
the way.
so they don't survive in any kind of real numbers. Usually when you do find them, it's the same 1 or 2 dates, So you don't, they'll never get the love. And plus it's a short series. And if you are a real completionist and you're going for the proofs, obviously there's some coins there that, you gotta be a millionaire. I mean,
two specifically.
two
that are-
coins are 7-figure coins,
and
right?
that's even if you can find one.
If you can find one.
Yeah.
I mean, one coin, there's only 5 made, right?
1885.
So that's a coin that even if you have the beans to spend several $1 million on a coin, how often do they come on the market? Every
You want to
10,
hear a
20
fun
years?
fact?
What's that?
That coin is actually the 1885 proof trade dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Is the rarest silver dollar ever made in this country.
Really? I'm trying to think. There's nothing unique.
There's nothing with the lower mintage.
Huh.
All 5 are accounted for.
Right. Oh, I know one that's just rare. That's more rare.
Which one?
1964 piece dollar.
I thought they only discovered the dies, but no coins.
Strangely enough, they talked about that they made them. They admit that they made them. There's never been any publicly seen or announced or anything. When they went to check in the Smithsonian, is actually our friend JD. They were going through helping the Smithsonian organize stuff. He found dies for a Morgan dollar from 1964.
Yeah, but no coins.
Which no one ever
correct?
mentioned being made ever.
But no coins. Correct?
No. But the piece dollar, apparently they made $500,000 and melted them down. And there's been never a photograph, never anything, it's never been on display. But I spoke to somebody who said they saw one, who I believe knows, would know. It was, somebody who's expert enough to be able to say, oh, that's a fake or that's real.
That would be cool.
So
I don't believe
whether it really exists or
that's
not.
Cool.
Yeah. You could probably buy one on Temu or whatever.
AliExpress.
Alibaba.
Yeah.
I'll give you that though. The trade dollar is pretty. It is pretty special. There are some cool issues. Because how many? What did they make it for? 5 years? 7 years? 5
The
years?
circulation ones ran from 1873 to 1878.
So 5 years, and then
And then the
couple
rest
more
of the years,
proof onlys.
the rest of the years they continued
To
with
85 is the last year,
proofs.
right?
Correct. But the last 2 years, it was made by, what's the guy's last name? It's a famous last name, but he got them made literally just so he worked at the U.S. Mint, so they weren't illegally made, but he made them just so he could trade them with other coin dealers.
Oh,
for
was
coins
it
that he-
Snowden?
Yeah, Snowden. That's it.
Yeah, he was the mint director. He was a
Yeah.
collector who would make all these pattern pieces and trade them and stuff. Oh, that's cool.
1873 to 77, I think, was the trade dollar for circulation.
Yeah, I think
right?
you're
78 onward was
That
proof
sounds
only.
right.
All right. We're out of questions, though.
We're out of questions. So now what? Do we have any other topics, or was that how we?
No, I think this is where we say goodbye.
This is where we say adios,
amigos.
and then this is where we wrestle each other over what's the king of Morgan dollars or something.
We had a discussion. I think the
We've exhausted it.
general public will hopefully agree with me, even though it's called the king. The 1895 does not fit into any definition or description of the king of Morgan dollars.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Roosevelt dime's cooler.
The Roosevelt time. Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
All right.
I guess this is how we wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining us. Ash,
been
this has
fun.
been fun. I look
Yeah.
forward to doing this again.
Absolutely.
We've learned a lot. Don't eat a big meal right before we come on here because we may have more energy next time, hopefully.
I agree with you. Next time we do this, and then we go eat.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time here on the Jack Ash Podcast.